exciting, Janine. It's almost Halloween and we are live.
We are in the full spooky season swing. I hope everybody is ready for Halloween. It's just a few days away. So, welcome to SD Spooky Adventures, where we talk about everything paranormal. We're your hosts. I'm Janine, and this is Debbie.
Hi, everybody. Janine, quickly, what are you going to do on Halloween?
So, on Halloween night, I will be running a lockdown and paranormal investigation at the 10th Avenue Art Center here in San Diego. Tickets are still available, so we'll get you guys those links in the comments a little bit later on tonight. I promise it is definitely worth it. The building is extremely haunted, and we capture evidence every single time we go in.
It really is. And I've been in there many times with you, Janine, doing ghost tours and just our own investigations. And what we found is just so many ghosts and so much residual energy. So you guys get your tickets. Janine, maybe you can type in the link or something in the comments, or I don't know, send it to me somehow. But we will get it. It'll be on Psychic Fix's page and everywhere. So you guys can just click in and get a ticket. Hi, Julie, and hi, Kim. You know what? I really asked Janine if we could talk about hexes and curses. So if you're watching this and you feel like that you've been cursed in your lifetime, that somebody hexed you in some way, please go ahead and let us know that. And this came about, Janine, because we were talking earlier, is that when I started on this path, I really, when people said, oh, I've been cursed, I would roll my eyes because I was like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, sure. And because I always felt there was this thing of if they believe in it, that's going to be where the bad luck comes. But the more and more that I have more and a huge amount of people come and tell me they were cursed or hexed, I'm like, okay, let me think about this. And the more I thought, Debbie, you do everything long distance. You heal. We send energy all the time. It's validated. It's how I do readings, is tapping into the energy and doing things long distance. And I said, yes, people that can say something against someone else or tell them to, whatever, that can travel. And I looked it up. So it's a solemn utterance intended to invoke a supernatural power to inflict harm or punishment on someone or something. And so I go, well, I kind of flipped somebody off the other day when I was driving.
Happens.
And I think that's okay. I think it's okay because I'm more F you than, yeah, I want you to die. So I go, I think that was all right. But I looked up a little bit of how curses came from. The first time they found, that people were doing curses was 6,000 years ago. I mean, really. And I'm like, oh, gee. I was just like, really like, I don't know. So now I really believe it. I have a lot of people that come in and tell me that. So I talk to them about making sure that they're not believing in it so much, that it is going to do all these horrible things. I think people can maybe not send energy so much or very light, or maybe there's people that's more powerful. So it depends on the stuff starts manifesting in. And I'm going to tell you that what just happened to me for about 7 or 8 weeks is things started going wrong. And I was going through a thing. Some of you know me and you know that I was going through a health scare. And it took about 7 weeks to find out that I was okay. I was going to be okay. And but during that time, Janine, it's just like when in the Bible they talk about things happening, diseases or whatever is going to happen to the earth. I had gone through bug bites, mosquitoes, and we had them come in from a hurricane, and I didn't know it. And I have maybe had 2 in my whole life because I have a run a cooler temperature. All of a sudden, I went out and came in. I had 30 bites. So this kept going on and on. And then I broke out in a rash over and over. And I couldn't get the medical care because I kept breaking out in a rash. They said, you have some kind of virus. We can't do anything until this clears up. And I mean, all these things started happening. And you know how we have technical problems and we have this and that. And I go, what have I done? And I go, something happened regarding, a product that I sell. And I was going, what's going on? And I go, yeah, in the pit of my stomach said, I think somebody went and, did something for the first time ever. There was two things going on. One is I decided that I would take kind of a hiatus or early retirement from reading so I could write. And I pulled apart this office. Behind me is the only spooky stuff I have in here. It's all books and bookshelves and all files and stuff. And I said, I messed up my wards, or my feng shui, some people might say. And so that let stuff in. And I think somebody did target me. So I took all the, things that I had to do to protect myself. And that's why I thought, Janine, that we should kind of talk about it, because, they are real, but you don't have to let them in. What do you think about curses, Janine?
I kind of had like the view before I got really into doing readings and helping people that, if you don't believe in it, then it can't happen to you, right? Mm-hmm. But I've come to the decision over the years with everything I've seen that they definitely do happen. Now, I do always recommend that we don't give it any power, don't give it any energy, because we don't want it to grow from where it is. But you definitely want to be sure to know what you're dealing with, be able to put protections in place and deal with it accordingly, because they definitely do happen.
Well, we have some famous cursed places. So let's bring up one that you know about, the Whaley House. Can you do a short thing about what the curse is on this house?
So curses can happen in many different ways. So somebody could actually send negative words or energies towards you, or certain things can take place that put a curse on a certain property. So when it comes to the Whaley House, this was something that was cursed by what took place on the property before the house was built. So Mr. Whaley comes to town. He's working with his business partner, because at the time he was living in San Francisco, but he also had a general store here in San Diego. He was definitely a businessman running many things all at one time. He comes to town and he witnesses a execution that's taking place for a man named Yankee Jim. He was a little dark, Mr. Whaley. He did like to go to these executions, but then again, back then, that was kind of their form of entertainment. They didn't have a lot going on. With that being said, he decides 2 years later to build the house that you see behind us here. And as soon as they move in, they realize that they're not alone. It's definitely haunted. There's somebody moving through there, very large guy. They can hear his boots, see his shadow. He's slamming the children's windows open and closed, scaring everybody. And then the family begins to face tragedy after tragedy after tragedy. They're not even in the house very long, and their 18-month-old son dies of scarlet fever.
Oh, that's sad.
This is little Thomas Jr. Shortly after that, they have their general store burned to the ground. They move it to the house, and then a few months later, that catches fire. They were renting out on the upper floor there a room as a billiards hall, and that guy leaves, and so they decide to rent it to a man named Thomas Tanner, who's running a theater troupe. Well, they have an amazing opening day. They make a lot of money. Things are looking good, but 10 days later, Thomas Tanner dies of a massive heart attack.
Oh.
He's still in that theater, by the way. And so then shortly after, finally, they are going to have some happiness. Their two older daughters are betrothed. They get married. They have a double ceremony right there at the house. Everything looks great. They send them off on their honeymoons. And 2 weeks later, their daughter, Violet, is abandoned by her husband.
Oh,
the man realized that he was not going to get any of the Whaley fortune. And so he leaves her. Now, she already was someone who had melancholy, so like kind of like bipolar. She was kind of up and down. And so this really sent her for a spin. I'm sure most of you guys know back then that, you know, women were expected to be married by a certain age, taking care of their husbands, raising kids. And if you weren't, you were shunned. You were that spinster, that old maid.
Old maid.
But if you got divorced, you pretty much didn't exist to people. So even her friends, when she came back, were not talking to her. So she ends up committing suicide by taking her father's pistol, going into the backyard and pulling the trigger, shooting herself in the chest. So they end up losing their daughter.
Right behind that building?
Right behind that building,
Okay.
where the outhouse is. And they kept this couch, like the settee that was in there. It's golden red. It's still in the house today. That is where he carried her in, hoping to save her life, but she died 20 minutes later.
Oh, wow.
So the family has just faced all these horrible things happening to them. And the land that he purchased was actually considered to be cursed. Nobody else wanted it. So he got a really good deal. He bought 15 acres, which includes the part that the house is on. He got it for $1.50.
Oh, wow.
It was 1854, I believe. Yeah, $1.50. And so, you know, everybody told him, like, that's cursed land.
Yeah.
Why would you build your family home there and raise your kids? But he didn't really believe in that type of stuff. Now, why would this land be so cursed? Why would this house end up so haunted with so much tragedy? Many people will tell you that that happens when there's unjust and untimely deaths. So here's the thing. This wasn't somebody physically human placing a curse on this family or this property. Where he built his house is where the gallows stood.
Oh, geez.
That execution he saw with Yankee Jim took place right here on this property.
Right.
As well as many other people who were hung there as well. So the land took on all that negative energy of the death. And some of those people, including Yankee Jim, their deaths were not very, they shouldn't have taken place the way they did. Yankee Jim did borrow or steal a rowboat, but it wasn't worth enough money to hang him. So they determined that he was going to steal something else, and that's why they charged him with what they did. So yes, he should have been prosecuted, but hung, no.
No.
And they didn't even hang him properly. When he was hung, he was taller than most men. So average man back then was like 5'2" to 5'5". He was 6'4". He was huge. And so when they hung him, he kind of just slid off the wagon. And instead of dropping quickly and breaking his neck, he just kind of hung there. He slid off, hung there, toes touching the ground, and he tiptoed around for 45 minutes before he died. So you can imagine all that negative energy that was just absorbed into the surrounding area just from that one execution alone. And I'm sure he's not the only one who died that shouldn't have on that.
Oh my gosh. So I would say, yes, cursed land. And we see that when people talk about Native American land, and their graves and this, that, and the other, because as we know from Pioneer Park and other places in San Diego, it's just it's such an injustice of how cemeteries were, not respected, disrespected, and the things that happened. And I would think that just all of that would just keep putting on, bad energies. You could see where people can get sick and things like that. We talked about this once. I really do have a feeling. I know groups of people that are paranormal investigators, and maybe they don't protect themselves as well. And people that just go and frequent doing this stuff. And I know somebody personally, not in the state, but goes on a lot of this stuff, and continually that person is sick. And I really I think that when we're around demonic or really negative energy, or people doing black magic, or where they did, because you and I know the deal. We can go out and find a sacrificed cat, You know, this stuff is out there in San Diego. And so I think that we tend to need to clear our energy and keep our protections up for sure. But I want to, before we run out of time and go too much more, I wanted to talk a little bit about some famous curses. So I don't know if you knew that the Knights Templar had a curse on them. And
I did not.
okay, well, I'm going to tell everybody there's 3 photos you're going to see that I just did in AI so that I could, use them. So um, the curse of the Knights Templar is about Friday the 13th. And I didn't know this. I always thought that maybe Friday the 13th was lucky and then it wasn't. And I came across the curse of the Knights Templar. And this, so we have the superstitions, and one is that Friday the 13th is spooky or scary or unlucky, right? But what happened in the early 14th century as King Philip of France was displeased with the Knights Templar funding his war against the English, and he did not want, and he wanted to pay back on them. So Friday, October 13th, 1307, King Philip, in collusion with the Pope, Clement V, launched a surprise attack, and I think everybody knows the history, to wipe them out of the Knights Templar. And so they really slaughtered them. So this ultimately, the surprise attack brought them to ultimate destruction. I know they've resurfaced and this, that, and the other, but that was a big thing. So, but what happened is the leader of the Knights, Jacques de Molay, he was imprisoned and tortured over the course of 7 years, and then he was burned at the stake. Before his public execution, he cursed the king and the pope to die quickly, and then cursed the house of Capet, the family, to their destruction. Well, it came to pass. Within a year, the Pope Clement V and King Philip had both died mysteriously. All of King Philip's 3 sons died within the next few years, as did his only male grandchild. As a result, the French crown went to the house of Valois, bringing an end to the reign of the house of Capet. And so that's why it's considered an unlucky day. And I'd say very unlucky.
Right.
Very unlucky. But I thought that was so interesting. So there was an actual curse when he was, going to be put to death that he put upon it. And just look at that, predictions all came true. That I thought was really amazing. So I want to tell you, let's see. I really do feel like that. Has anybody, Kim, you said that you had a curse on you. How did you deal with that? Now, I want to tell you really fast. We know this curse, don't we? King Tut. And it was what? Written above the thing. If you come in here, you're going to, die. And they did. So we know that they wrote a curse or they spoke a curse. And also Janine brought up that it's already cursed, the land, from accumulation of negative activity, or sometimes we can think of things being cursed by the violence and the murders that were made in certain places. Like, I don't know whatever happened to, where's it? The California murders. And he died. Oh gosh, he had a swastika here, you guys. Why can't I remember?
Oh, Charles Manson.
The Manson, yeah, that house. I can't imagine ever being on the land or the house. I don't know what happened to it, but that's creepy. I would think.
Friends investigate there, actually, and things get thrown across the room. People feel like something is trying to crawl inside them when they're in the house. Anybody who's lived there has had, fires, vehicle damage, car accidents, health issues. Like, it just, all that negative energy from those deaths and what took place in there seems to affect anybody who's connected to it.
And even if that they burn it down, it's still that ground. It's
Exactly.
still that ground. I just can't see, you know, even messing with that. I wanted just to add, okay, this is totally made up. It's well, my concept of a runestone. But there was this runestone, and so old, and it's really huge, and it's in Scandinavia, and they actually found that somebody had wrote a curse on it. That you touch this monolith, and it's the worst horrible death ever. And so it's like it still stands because nobody's freaking going to be touching that thing. Of course, again, I just made that one up in AI. So we have such a history of curses. And we were talking about Mexico because Mexico, um, I had so many people coming. Yeah, I'm in Southern California. We're in Southern California, so we're close to Mexico. So many people coming to me to say that they had, a curse put on them. And so I looked a little bit about it. So the La Bruja, the Mexican witchcraft, they have Wiccans, they have witches, they have all kinds of things there. They have a mix of Spanish and African black magic and things like that. So I tell everybody, don't mess with that. Don't. Get a professional to take that one off. Because I know that it, is very, very strong. And so Carla says yes, yes. And has anybody had any dealings with that?
I will say, like that monolith that you were talking about earlier, like people don't always necessarily, tell you up front that they're cursing you. Sometimes you receive an item from somebody who has ill intentions towards you, and those items can actually cause you to have the turmoil and chaos in your life. I had a friend or a guy that I used to date that his dad had a competing restaurant with somebody else. And so the other guy came over and left this clown statue on his front door with a note talking about what it was going to do to, death to his family, ruin to his family, loss of, finances and health. And, they went through a lot, multiple strokes, a heart attack. Both of the boys fell ill. The mom died when she was only 54 years old. Like, just really crazy things. And my thought to myself is, that this clown statue had this note attached, and you keep it in your house. I mean, he would move it around the house. It was causing chaos in the garage, so he moved it to the living room. Things were flying across the room in there. His son thought it was cool, so took it up to his room. We would be downstairs and we could hear things just flying and hitting the walls. Windows in that house, we would be just sitting there and they would just shatter. And so I was like, we're going to cleanse this house, and you're going to, cleanse this statue and get rid of it.
Right.
You cannot keep it here.
Right.
But he also did believe that statue was cursed, which was feeding that energy, feeding that curse.
Yes.
And his reasoning for not getting rid of it was he's afraid if he got rid of it, he would never be able to end the curse.
You know what? I'm not going to say her name, but we both know a really powerful witch. High priestess. Man, I'd be saying, come on, let's take care of this thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. People have to know that they have power, and that they have more power. I really know that good is stronger than evil. The evil is strong. But we can deal with it, and we can take care of it. And people need to believe they have the power to deflect. We have the power to clear it. We have to end it. And so, and that is playing on that guy's mind too, so strongly, because it was a physical thing. Not like I, say the words. No, here's something that you're going to have that you're going to look at and be afraid of forever. That might cause you to lose your focus and trip and hurt yourself, or do whatever. But we can't give that power to anybody. And we need to make sure that we're staying strong. Kim had said that she actually worked with a psychic to take care of what was put on her. So,
And
you know,
that's
we had to
important
be
right there, because most people keep quiet about feeling like they're cursed. They don't want to talk about it to other people because they're afraid of being ridiculed or whatever. But the fact of the matter is there's a power in numbers. So the more people putting good energy to dispel it, and the more people praying, or the more people, helping you to cleanse it and to, rid this from you, the better. We should be talking to people that we trust to get the help when it comes to feeling cursed or hexed.
I have on Psychic Fixes I've been following this healer, and all of a sudden up came a reel on taking off. I'm going to take hexes and curses off. And so she does the long distance. So you guys go look at her if you have that problem. But she said some of it's unintentional curses, that you were cursed and somebody didn't mean you harm, but they did whatever the process is of saying it or whatever. They've sent out that energy. And so we know, things can come in. And that's why I feel like we always have to be strong in putting the power in, the energy in around us. I do every day, around me, around my car, around my house, around a lot of people. And how I know it works is I was sending white energy of protection to two different people. And one was my sister and her partner. And I got a phone call one day and said, "Oh, Debbie, you need to help us. Something crazy is going on." And I said, "Well, what's going on?" And she goes, "White light is hanging in my living room, and there's no way it can. We have shutters and we have whatever, and we have blackout drapes, and we don't have anything. We don't do anything in that room. But at night, it's hanging there, lighting the room up." And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to tell you I sent it to you." So I know that you can send stuff like that. And my other friend also would say, "Did you send something?" Because I felt it. And the next day I had so much energy. And I said, "Yes, I did." She could always get the days that I did that. So we know we can do that. And we know that we can deflect. We know that we can protect, and we can shield ourselves and shield everything. And deflection is kind of tough because that will go back to the person. It will go away from you, but it will go back to that person. So there's a lot of things. Sam, hi, Sam. You said, "Does God protect us?" If your higher power, and Janine, you can respond to this. I know we need to go in a few minutes. Your higher power, of course, can protect you. And a lot of people we have different gods in this world, and we have deities. We have universal power. People believe in energy and things like that. They maybe won't say God, but those higher powers that I work with, angels, archangels, Jesus, God, you name it, the universe. So whoever you say, that's my higher power. And even your higher self can deflect and protect. And I hope that, Janine, do you have any comment on that?
No, I believe exactly the same. So it's always great to pull in that higher power, the one that you put your faith into, that energy that created us, and use that, because it is always, and no matter what religion or what you believe in, it's always supposed to be there to keep you safe and to help you and protect you. That's why they send the angels. That's why we do have the things that we have. And with the energy, like she was talking about, we can protect ourselves, but you also have to be careful what you're saying about other people, because that negative energy could be the unintentional curse that you're putting on somebody.
Yep.
Driving past somebody saying, "I hope that the guy flips his car. He's driving like an animal."
Mm-hmm.
And then you find someone flipped down the road. We always have to be very careful about what we say, because intention and energy is what's going to create these curses on people.
Right. I love what Carlos was channeling Elvis. Return to sender. That's right.
Right back.
I know that you have an exciting adventure that you're going on with Chris Oliver. We all love Chris, paranormal investigator and medium. And so I know we need to get going now at 7 o'clock.
Well, I do want to thank you all. I am heading out on an investor to a haunted Encinitas tour tonight. So we're going to learn some history, some more ghosts, and just kind of check out the lay of the land there in Encinitas. So definitely look forward to photos, videos, and probably a podcast on just that topic alone coming soon. As always, you can see me and Debbie on Sunday nights at 6:30, and we look forward to seeing you.
Okay, you guys, and I can't wait to find out everything that you get tonight, and the ghosts that you're going to take all your equipment.
We're definitely going to bring some equipment with us, and I will definitely be sending you videos and photos if we capture anything cool, and we'll definitely be sending some other videos to you this way from the 10th Avenue Theater that we're having that investigation at on tomorrow night, as well as the 31st. So you guys can see the activity that does take place at those locations. Don't forget to get your tickets before they sell out.
Okay, check Psychic Fixes and SD Spooky Adventures on Facebook, and you'll get the ticket information. Kim, the Encinitas thing tonight is a haunted walking tour. Is that right, Janine?
Correct.
So
we're going at 8:45. Anybody that's in the Encinitas area, get your tickets and come join us.
Okay, we're going to go so she can get on the road. That's a ways away. Oh, thank you, Janine. We'll see you next week.